Yeah, hi. I'm Peter Fuggle. I'm Clinical Director here at the Anna Freud Centre. I've been a clinical psychologist for many years, and my career has always been working with children and their families. So I'm here to talk about mentalisation and how that idea could be applied for staff working in schools. Now, mentalisation is a bit of a complicated word, and that's a shame, because the basic idea of mentalisation is very simple. And it is something that everybody knows about. So I don't want to make this more complicated than it needs to be. So the definition of mentalisation is to how we understand people's behaviour in terms of mental states, i.e. what's going on in their mind, in terms of beliefs, ideas, attitudes, feelings. The way we try and understand what a child is doing, how a child is behaving in school, is in terms of mental states. Now, all teachers do that already. I mean, that's not a new idea. Teachers don't have to be trained to think like that, because they all think about, wonder why somebody's feeling upset or feeling angry on a particular day. So it's something they do already. But I suppose what we'd like to emphasise is it can be particularly useful for some children if things aren't going so well for them. So one of the common things that happens in school is there are some children who get into trouble a lot, or find it difficult to follow the rules, or kind of just generally feel aggressive, or get into difficult relationships. It's very understandable that for teachers, their first thought is often, how do I deal with the behaviour? And that's completely right. That's the first thing a teacher does have to do. They have to deal with the behaviour. That's important. But what we're encouraging also is that, as well as dealing with the behaviour, that teachers think about why it is that a child might be behaving in this way, what might be going on in their mind, what might have happened that has led them to feel this way. So that can be part of how they respond to a child, as well as actually being clear about what behaviour is okay and what behaviour is not okay. Mentalisation is not about just taking the child's side or being soft about things. It's also really important that children know what's okay and what's not okay in a school setting. But in addition to that, try to understand what it is that makes them behave in the way they are at the current time. So what does mentalising in the classroom look like? Well, in a way, what mentalising in the classroom looks like is good teaching. Again, we're not introducing some completely new idea at all, not at all. It's if you watch a teacher who's working with a class well, they're attending to two things. They're very clear about what the task is that they want children to explore and learn. So there's no muddle about that. So the task is clear, that helps children to learn. But they're also attending to the child or the children. They're also noticing what it's like to be a child in that classroom. So it's both task and sensitivity to the child. Those are the two things. And good teachers just do this all the time. They have a sort of natural ability at that. But if I just take a particular example. Okay, so if you had a child who's finding it hard to read, they're struggling, they're not at the same level as their peers. And a teacher is giving that child some extra help in supporting their learning of reading. Now, what you'll see a good teacher do is that they'll be very clear of what they're trying to help the child to practice. They'll be showing them new skills, they're helping them to practice, but they're also paying attention to what it might be like to be finding something difficult. So they're recognising that the child finds it difficult. They might make sort of just comments, small statements, and say, I know that you find this hard. So that they're attending to what it's like to be the child as well as what the task is. And that's what mentalising is. You're kind of trying to think, what's it like to be in a classroom when you find something more difficult than everyone else? What are the sort of feelings you might have? That you might feel a bit anxious, or you might feel a bit ashamed, or all sorts of, not necessarily dominant feelings, but feelings that are likely to be there that inhibit how a child can cope in a school setting. So it's attending to person and task is what you see in really high quality teachers, and that's the sort of thing that we're encouraging, taking a mentalising approach. Another aspect of thinking about mentalisation in school setting is about how teachers deal with their own experiences and feelings when they're teaching. It's not a surprise that some of the time when you're a teacher, it's quite stressful. It's a stressful job. You've got 30 children in front of you. It doesn't always go exactly to plan. There are difficulties that arise. So sometimes, understandably, teachers feel stressed by the work they do. It can be fun, it can be enjoyable, but sometimes it's stressful. And part of a mentalizing approach is just to be able to recognise how you're feeling in these situations. And being able to share that sometimes with colleagues, and being comfortable with the idea that how you are as a teacher is partly also to do with your own state of mind, and there's nothing unusual about that. That's completely okay, and it's applying the idea that your own behaviour is affected by your own thoughts and feelings and attitudes and what's going on for you, and being able to communicate about that is part of a generally kind of adaptive and supportive school environment. So for both pupils and for teachers, we see mentalizing as having some value in helping both pupils and teachers deal with stressful and difficult aspects of their daily life. For more information about evidence-based practice in schools and mentalization, we recommend you join the Schools in Mind network, and this can be found in the Anna Freud National Centre for Children and Families website.